Well, here's the stock that I'm going to be using for the legs. What I really want to do, these legs at the top are going to be a full 2 inches square. So I've got 3 boards here. I can get 2 out of one and 1 out of each one of these. And what these squares are, is I've taken a piece of cardboard and I've cut out a 2-inch opening. I really want to make sure that the legs are rift sawn. In other words, the grain goes from corner to corner like this. That way there won't be any cathedrals in the legs themselves. It'll be all straight grain on all 4 sides. So this just gives me a window, kind of like what I did with the drawer fronts, where I can take that and position it over the piece, determine where my grain lines are, and now I can just take these over the bandsaw. I'm going to rough cut these and then face joint one side, thickness plane them, and get them to about the 2 inches square that I need. So here's what I'm left with. I've got 4 leg blanks with a pretty even grain match. Except for one, it came out a little bit different. It's from a different board, but I think I'll be fine with that. I've got some nice straight grain on all 4 sides. Some are better than the others. This one's got some defects I hope to cut out of there, or at least put to the inside so you won't see them. But those came out very nice, and those will make very nice legs. I'm getting ready to start to turn the legs. I've got the 4 legs cut to length. Got one chucked up in my lathe here. This is the model that I'm going to use for the bottoms of the legs only. There's not going to be a taper on these legs. They're going to be square all the way to the top. This is just going to be on the bottom because there's going to be an inlay on the front of the leg and medallions and banding. It's going to be very intricate when it's done. It should look nice, but it's going to take some time. So I'm going to get to turning. Well, here's the finished first leg, and this is the model that I used. Came out pretty darn close. Again, I am no way an expert at this. This took me about 25 minutes or so just to do this one piece. So I'm going to do some sanding on this, and then I'm going to do the other 3 legs. Well, I spent some time looking at the grain on these, and I've decided which ones are going to face. Then I put a cabinet maker's triangle, this obviously being the front, this is the back. I also made some marks on where the mortises are going to go for the rails. I also put some chalk on there so I knew where to cut those mortises. And I made one layout on one of the legs for the mortises. I'm just going to carry through the starting and stop points of each one of those mortises on these legs. Well, I've got my hollow chisel mortiser set up with a 3/8 inch bit. I've got the setback correct to give myself a 1/8 inch reveal. And again, I've got my starting stopping points and where I'm going to be cutting the mortises. So just going to get to it. Well, the lower blade on this is going to be held into the front leg with a double tenon. So I know my rails are going to be 5.5 inches. So I need to make a mark, and I'm going to carry that across. This is some of the material that I'm going to be using for the lower blade. So I just need to put one square right up against that line. So again, these tenons here will be here for the lower blade. Well, here's the material for the side rails, material for the back rail, and for the 2 front blades. This is 5.5 inch, and this is 2 inch, which is the width of the leg itself. These need to be cut at 34.25 inches. These need to be cut at 17.25 inches. That'll give me my 1.1/8 tenons that I'm looking for. I'm getting ready to cut the cheeks for the tenons on the rails, and the easiest way to do this, and the most important thing, is the distance between the shoulders, not necessarily the length of the tenon. So what I've got is I've got my fence set up. I'm going to use that in combination with my miter gauge. Now there's nothing that's going to fall off between the fence and the blade, so there's no chance of kickback on this. And I'm only cutting 3/16 of an inch deep, actually a little bit less than 3/16 of an inch. I need to be able to trim those tenons to get a nice friction fit in the mortises. So what this is going to do, it's going to give me symmetry all the way around. All I need to do is basically 2 setups. This one here, I'm going to cut all the cheeks, and then I'm going to raise it up to 1/2 an inch, flip the board up, and then cut those. Now I still got the blade set at the 3/16 height. The upper blade, I only need to make that shoulder cut on one face of it. Now with my blade set a little bit proud of a 1/2 inch, maybe an extra 32nd of an inch, I'm going to go ahead and cut the shoulders on these tenons. I've got the blade raised up to 5/16 of an inch. I made a few test cuts, I know it's right. So this is going to be the start of the double tusks on the ends of the lower blade. So what I want to do is I want to make that cut, clean it up, flip it over, clean it up, and get both shoulders. Well, this is what I'm trying to accomplish here. This is this is the lower blade where those double tenons are going to go in, and you can see where those 2 outsides match up with the mortises in the leg. They're a little bit proud, but that's good because I need to finesse them into that mortise. I've got my tenon jig set up in my table saw. The blade height is just high enough so it goes into this kerf that I've already made, and I also made sure that it's perpendicular to the table here, and this is perpendicular this way also. And I know that I'm going to take off 3/16 of an inch off the outside of this. So the way I've got it set up right now is the outside of this blade, actually I need to move it over just a little bit more. The outside of this blade is just kissing the outside of the workpiece. I'm going to make a pass, which I know is going to be heavy, and I'm going to move it over just slightly, take another pass, and then try it on my test piece. And I'm going to creep up on this. Well, after about 2 or 3 tries, that's what I'm left with. And again, that's pretty tight. That's a little bit tighter than I want, which is actually good. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the pieces. Then after that's done, I'll just clean these up with a shoulder plane and maybe 1 or 2 swipes each, and they'll fit nice and snug into there. Well, I'm getting ready to cut the tenons in the lower blade. I've got it clamped on my bench here, and I've got this position to where these need to be cut. I'm just going to take my marking knife. I've also marked one A, and the other side B. And I need to find out where the inside of that's going to be. So I'm just going to take my marking knife and make a little notch right there. It's not perfect, but I'm really concerned about this right here. I can plane this down to get it flush with the top of the leg. I'm ready to give this a dry fit and see how everything came out. Confidence is pretty high. Here's a completed dry fit. It's nice and square. All the joints are nice and tight. My dovetails are not the greatest, but it's more than enough to hold this case piece. My main concern is this right in front, and that's nice and tight. The double tenon's nice and tight. Everything's nice and tight, and it's square. So now that this is done, I can get on to working on the inlay banding on the front piece. A medallion here and some more inlay and more banding on the legs. A lot more inlay work to do on this piece, and that's coming up next time.